All right. It is 5 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our first Parent and Family Programs webinar of the fall 2025 semester. So glad you could join us. I know sometimes it's hard to find time in the day or in the evening, so we're trying to do it in the evening. This session is being recorded, and so it will be posted to our Parent and Families webpage afterwards. So if you want to go back and watch it or tell all your friends, they can also come and watch it. Tonight's guest speaker is Alexandra Nieves. She is our Director of Education Abroad and the National Student Exchange. So Alexandra, I'll let you take it away.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Garth. That was a great introduction. The title's a bit of a mouthful, so I appreciate you getting the whole thing in there. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about all of the study abroad and study away opportunities we have to offer here at UCA. So, just to get started, I do have kind of a couple of questions that I would love to pose to you guys. And if you feel comfortable just leaving something in the chat, your thoughts to these or your responses to these questions, that would be awesome. So, to help me kind of guide my presentation and make sure I'm addressing these key things that are important to you. So, first, I would love to know what information you're hoping to learn in today's session. If there's anything particular that you're interested in for your student or your student has expressed interest in, would love to hear that. And then also would like to know what some of your biggest concerns are when it comes to your students studying abroad. So if you have any thoughts on either of these, I would love to hear, just some comments in the chat or from you before we get started. And then from there, definitely going to share a lot of information about the different programs that we have to offer. So, all right, I see we've already got one comment, so that's awesome. When it comes to information, you're looking at timelines for application and passports or other documents. Okay, super. That's definitely something that we'll address today. We do have kind of different timelines just depending on when students are wanting to go abroad. And, some of the different programs we offer are on different timelines, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of clarify some of those questions today. I see we have a couple other people joining, so that's great. Okay, and then when it comes to concerns, this is great. Safety, of course, that's a big concern, obviously for our office as well, but understandably for many parents and for students, that's something that we address often. And then the idea of belonging or inclusion while students are away, that's definitely another big one that we worry about, and we try to prepare students and also follow them throughout their study abroad journey to make sure that they feel that they're being accompanied throughout the process. And, if they're dealing with feelings of homesickness or just, culture shock and trying to adjust to their new location, that we can help them with that. Another person said scholarships cost. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of the biggest ones that we hear from students, but also from families is, these are great opportunities, but, how can we make them more affordable? And kind of what are the expectations when it comes to cost? So hopefully we'll answer some of those questions a little bit more today. All right, I'm gonna jump into it, but if you do have any questions throughout this session, please feel free to leave those comments in the chat, and we'll try to monitor that and make sure that we address your questions when they're relevant. And then there will also be a Q&A at the end. So if you, prefer to save your questions till the end, then there will be that opportunity to dedicate a few minutes to answering questions. All right. So just to get into it, first I'm going to start by introducing a little bit who I am, what do I know about studying abroad, and my background in working with students. So I am Alexandra. I usually go by Allie. I graduated from UCA myself. I had graduated with my Bachelor of Arts in 2017. I did a double major in Spanish and French, which will be relevant when you see my study abroad experience. That might make a little more sense. And then I continued to do my Master of Arts here at UCA in Spanish and finished that degree in 2019. So when I came to UCA, like many of the students that we see in our office, I had absolutely no travel experience, and I really didn't have travel on my radar either. It wasn't something that I had thought about studying abroad. Actually had never even been in an airport, much less on a plane. So you can imagine finding myself in this position today is a little bit surreal sometimes. But while I was here at UCA, I had the opportunity to do a few of our study abroad programs, two of which we still offer on an annual basis for students. So my first experience abroad was with our Spanish language immersion program in Costa Rica. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then I did one of our faculty-led programs and a semester exchange program as well. So by the time I finished my undergraduate degree, I had really gotten the opportunity to experience several of these different programs on a personal level. And that definitely helps me when I'm working with students today because I've experienced it not only from the administrative side, but also from the student's perspective. And I really understand, what some of those challenges are for our students. After I finished my degree, before I came here to UCA, I did live abroad for about 3 years, teaching English as a foreign language, first in France through a government program, and then in the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean. So, have that international travel experience and living abroad experience that, helps me in my work. So to jump right into the programs that we offer at UCA, first I'm going to give you kind of a higher level, broad view of what we offer, and then I'm going to get into the specific programs so you can kind of get an idea first of which ones might be most interesting for you or your student. So first, our most popular programs are our short-term programs. I'll talk a little bit more about how popular those are in a minute. But these programs generally last from 1 to 4 weeks during the summer. There's two different program models that we offer. Our first and most popular program model is what we call faculty-led programs. We'll talk again more about this in a moment, but faculty-led programs are called that because they are led by UCA professors abroad. So that makes them particularly beginner friendly. So for students who haven't had a lot of travel previously. We also offer language immersion programs in the summer for those students that are studying language, whether it's Spanish or French. We offer different destinations where students can go and really improve their language proficiency during that short kind of intensive period over the summer. With all of our short-term programs, students pay a program fee. That program fee is going to include a lot of different things, accommodations, airfare, any activities, and transportation abroad. So it's really like a package, and the price will vary based on the program the student chooses. So some destinations are a little bit more expensive, and some programs are a little bit longer. So there is kind of a range there, but they pay a fixed fee for those programs. We do offer scholarships for these programs as well that can help, reduce the financial burden of the programs. So I'll talk more about particular scholarship opportunities a little bit later. Finally, for these programs, these are the ones that are open to the majority of UCA students. So they have the lowest barrier to entry, if you will. We require that students have 30 credit hours by the time they go abroad and a minimum of 2.5 GPA. So, usually for most students that are full-time after their freshman year, they're eligible for these programs. Also, important to note, students do earn academic credit on all of our programs. So for our short-term programs, for example, they're going to earn 3 to 6 credit hours, depending on the program and the student's preference. Then we do also offer longer term options, either a full semester or academic year. Both of those are kind of available depending on students' preference. And these are what we call either semester exchange or direct enroll programs. Essentially, the experience for students on both of these types of programs is identical. The only difference and the reason they have different names is because of the payment mechanism that goes along with them. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. On our semester exchange programs particularly, students will pay UCA tuition and they'll continue to pay it through their UCA student account, which makes it, very user-friendly for students and families. You don't have to go find somewhere else and figure out how you're going to make payment. It's right through their portal and it's the same tuition rate, slightly reduced, we'll talk about that as well, as compared to a normal semester. Again, they can receive their scholarships, but in addition to that, any financial aid that they normally receive for the spring or fall semester is also accessible to them on these programs. So by that I mean if your student receives academic scholarships, if they receive Pell Grant, if they use loans to pay for school, all of those things would still apply for their semester abroad, which again can help to make it a bit more affordable than many people expect. We do have a little bit of a higher threshold for students to be able to participate in these programs. Students have to have completed 60 credit hours by the time they go abroad, which is usually going to be after sophomore year. and they have to have a minimum 3.0 GPA. Again, students do earn academic credit on these programs. So for one semester, they'll earn 12 to 15 credits, the same as if they were full-time here on UCA's campus. So one of the myths that we hear a lot is, oh, students are going to fall behind if they go abroad. That's absolutely not the case. We work really hard to make sure that students are able to enroll in courses that benefit them, not only personally, but in terms of their, degree plan academically. All right, so just to jump right in, we're going to talk first about the short-term programs. I gave you a little bit of an overview. Now we're going to get really into the details about what exactly we offer. So just to give you an idea, I mentioned that these are more our most popular programs. To put that into kind of numerical terms for you, in a given year, about 83% of the students that go abroad through our office participate in a short-term program. So either our faculty-led or our language immersion programs. So that's obviously the vast majority. Then of that group of students that participate in a short-term program, 89% of those are choosing faculty-led. So you can kind of see this breakdown. With our most recent data of where students, what type of program students opt into. And you can see that faculty-led are definitely our most popular option. There's also a lot of faculty-led programs to choose from, which I think is part of the reason they're so popular. And we'll talk a little bit more about what all of those different programs are, and maybe you can get an idea of which ones would be a good fit for, the student that you have in mind. So we'll start with our faculty-led programs, and this is going to be, like I said, the bulk of programs that we offer at UCA. So again, you'll take 1 to 2 classes with UCA professors. That's something that sets this program apart from both our language immersion and our semester exchange programs, because you're really traveling with the faculty, with the professors from the time you leave Little Rock until the time you return. They're on the same flight as you. When you arrive, they're making sure you get to your accommodations. You're seeing them every day for any classes or excursions, activities that you're doing. And then when you return, they're going to make sure that you get on the plane and get back to Arkansas safely. So it's a really, great program for students, like I mentioned previously, that don't feel super comfortable about the idea of traveling independently, prefer the support of professors, then this is, a super good fit. Every year, our destinations for faculty-led programs do change. So the programs that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes are programs that are specifically offered for this upcoming summer, 2026. And so for 2027, we may have a few new destinations. Some of the destinations we offer this year may not be available in 2027. But in general, we offer the bulk of our programs in Europe and then a few options in Asia and Latin America as well. We also have this year a program on offer in Africa. So there's a good variety, but it does change from year to year. I mentioned that students will travel with professors from UCA. They'll also be accompanied by a big group of students from UCA. So I always, when I'm talking to students about these programs and trying to explain what the dynamic is like, I always like to compare it to like a field trip, except for instead of going to, a museum, you're going to a whole other country. But the same sort of dynamic of having, professors there to chaperone the group with a good mix of students, usually who don't all know each other. So it's also a great way for students to get to know other UCA students from around campus. The classes that they'll take, again, 1 to 2 classes, it's up to the student whether they want to do 1 or 2, but they're taught by those UCA faculty and they're recorded on their UCA transcript with a grade. So definitely also an academic endeavor. These applications are currently open for all of our summer 2026 programs. They opened at the very beginning of the fall semester, and students are welcome to apply to any of these programs through January 15th, 2025. So, they still have several months to get in applications if they're interested in going abroad for the summer 2026 term. Now, these applications are open on a yearly cycle. So that means if you're thinking about your student, maybe going abroad in 2027 or 2028, the timeline is going to be about the same, just a year in advance. So you would want to prepare for them to, start an application in the fall semester, knowing that it's going to close mid-January every year. Okay, so getting into the programs that we're offering for 2026 a little bit more specifically, this is an overview. You can see there's quite a variety of programs that we are offering to students, and we're excited about the diversity of programs and locations that we have this year. So some of these programs have run for several years, and I'll point those out to you. But there are also programs that are completely new this year, and we've never been able to offer to students before. So we're excited about some of those destinations in particular. I'm going to take each of these programs and break them into groups of three. We'll discuss briefly and just give you an overview of those programs, and then we'll move on to our next program type. So, all right, these are the first three of the programs you just saw, but just breaking them down a little bit more. So you can see that all of our faculty-led programs have different dates. This is intentional. It's in part because the faculty who propose programs to our office, they choose dates that work for them. Of course, some faculty teach in the summer as well, or they have family obligations, so we work around their schedule. But also the programs have different dates, so they work for your student's schedule. You'll see that some programs are longer, some are shorter. Some start right at the end of a spring semester, and others don't start later until like June. So students can really pick programs that fit what they have going on. If they have an internship, if they're taking a, summer one class, they can still get in a study abroad, at the beginning of the summer. So we'll start with our Costa Rica program, which is based in occupational therapy and nursing. For most of you, if you have, students that are just starting here at UCA, then this is going to be a program that they could consider further into the future, whereas many of the other programs are open to them from their first semester. The reason for that is this program is focused on students that are in the nursing program at UCA and students that are in our occupational therapy program, which is a doctoral program. But nonetheless, I wanted to, give you a little bit of information about it in case any of your students are thinking of going into those fields. It's a 10-day program. It's based in Costa Rica, in the Blue Zone, which is an area of the world where people live to 100 and older at higher concentrations. So it's really interesting for students and health professions to study what is this? Why are people here living so much longer, even without maybe some of the modern conveniences that we're used to? And it's always very impactful for students to get to do some of that patient-centered care, whether they're from nursing or occupational therapy. Again, this is a 10-day program, and in terms of cost, it's going to be on the lower end of our spectrum. Last year, this program ran students at about $3,800, and this year it's projected to come in at just a little over $4,000. So that kind of gives you an idea of cost. Our British Isles program is another program that has been running for a few years. All the programs on this slide are ones that have seasoned faculty leaders. None of these are first-time programs. So the British Isles program, as you can see, it's also a little more than 2 weeks in length. That 2 to 3 week tends to be a very popular kind of length for our programs. A lot of students feel like maybe a week isn't enough to justify it, but a month can be a really long time to be away from home. So we tend to see a lot of programs in that kind of window. So it leaves on May 20th and returns on June 10th. And the courses that are offered are from the English and history departments. We have one faculty leader, Dr. Scribner from English, and then one Dr. Jelinek who comes from the history department. So that allows, students the opportunity to take classes in those particular areas. One important thing I didn't mention, but that I will point out, is that students don't necessarily have to be majoring in one of the specific areas that courses are offered in, or even minoring, in order to participate in the program. Programs like this are open to any student who's interested in visiting the British Isles and earning the credit that's offered on the program. Many of our programs offer courses that have no prerequisites. So you don't have to think, okay, I have to find a program that offers courses in my student's major. Some students like that, and that's great. If there is a course in their major, that might pull them in a different direction, but it's not a requirement. We open our programs to, to be interdisciplinary and have students that bring different perspectives from different departments and colleges. Like I said, this program is based in the British Isles, specifically England and Scotland. So students have the opportunity to visit those two countries, see some of those tourist destinations like Stonehenge, Oxford, and castles and things, but also really get great exposure to history and also literature as it relates to the sites that they're seeing. The third program that you have here is probably well, it is our longest running and probably our most popular program if you look at kind of the history, which is our Florence program. This is also the longest program that we offer. It runs from May 18th to June 15th, so just about a month. And students are mainly spending their time in Florence with a few days of time visiting Bolzano, which is kind of more in the Alps region of Italy, and then Cinque Terre on the coast. So they get a really good view of different parts of Italy. The professors that lead this program are Dr. Sobel, who offers courses in psychology, and then Professor Doug Corbett from the Honors College. So this is a really popular choice for students that are in Shedler Honors College, but also for students just really across campus. In terms of cost, last year this program was priced at $7,750, and that is the most expensive program that we offer during the summer. Again, you're going to a very, high demand destination, Florence, and it's a long program, so those factors add up to kind of push it to the top end of what we offer. Um, Okay, so those are the first three. We've still got many more to come, so don't fret if you haven't seen one that you think is a great fit for your student yet. So next group, we all have on offer a program that's new this year, UCA in Germany. This is a really unique concept for a program. It's based around the Fairy Tale Road, which is kind of an established, I guess, path in Germany that follows the life of the Brothers Grimm, who of course are very well known for writing many kind of children's literature fairy tales. So like Hansel and Gretel, for example. So the courses that are offered are in English and philosophy. The faculty leader, as you can see here, Dr. Case and Dr. Duncan. It's also a 2-week trip, kind of in the same timeline as a lot of our programs. But students will have the opportunity to spend most of their time in two larger cities in Germany, Frankfurt and then Göttingen. And then they'll have some day trips to several other cities that are relevant to the lives of the Brothers Grimm and to understanding the literature that they're going to be studying. Actually, the faculty, Dr. Case, specializes in fairy tales and children's literature. So it really makes sense that she's leading this program. And we're excited to offer something in Germany as well this summer. Next is also a new program. Actually, all three of these are new this year. Our program in Italy. So specifically, this program, unlike the Florence program, this one is based in Rome and then in Sorrento on the Amalfi Coast. We have a partner you'll see later for semester exchange, who's located in the city of Sorrento. So we're taking advantage of that partnership for this program, which is focused in interior design. So any students that are studying interior design, this is a great opportunity for them to explore Italian architecture and interiors in Italy, with some time, like I said, in Rome, as well as in Naples, and then on the Amalfi Coast. So that's a great opportunity for those students. Then finally on this page, we have our UCA in Japan program. This is one of the ones we're again really excited to offer. We've had a lot of student demand for Japan in the last few years. There's a lot of things that students listen to and watch, I think, that have piqued their interest in Japanese culture. So, being able to offer a short-term program there was something we were very excited about. Again, looking at that 2-week length, May 11th through the 25th. And this is also a unique program because of the number of areas we offer courses in. We have 3 faculty on this program, one from the College of Business, specifically offering some lower division courses, as well as courses in economics and finance. And then from our School of Language and Literature, we have a professor of Japanese. Who's also originally from Japan, and students will have the opportunity to visit her home city, Nara, during the program. So that's a really cool experience. And then finally, a faculty member, Dr. Amasi from chemistry, who's offering a few chemistry courses, one for students who don't have a lot of prior chemistry experience, and then one that's a little bit more it's an elective, so offers a little bit higher level for students who may be in the sciences. So the program will visit a few different cities in Japan. Starts out in Tokyo, and then students go to Kyoto, Osaka, Nara, and end the program again in Tokyo. So really getting, again, a good view of Japan, different cities in Japan, and understanding, both business, art, and kind of just the culture of Japan. All right, we're about halfway there. So our next set of programs are first our program in New Zealand. This is again totally different destination. We've never offered something in Australia or New Zealand before, but we've had so much interest from students in this region. So this is the first year we're launching this program. That being said, the faculty that lead the program are very seasoned. Dr. Voss and Dr. Diemers have previously offered programs in Vienna and in Amsterdam for a number of years. So they're just, taking students to a new destination this year. The program is a little bit over 2 weeks, May 10th to the 29th. And it's based primarily in Christchurch in New Zealand. Students are going to have some really cool opportunities on this program. It's one that if I were a student, I would be totally interested in. There's a whale watching tour, a visit to seal colonies. They're going to get to visit the area of New Zealand where the Lord of the Rings movies were shot. So it has like a very otherworldly look, and also some beaches and hot salt pools, which all sound like amazing experiences. The International Antarctic Center is in New Zealand as well, so that's incorporated into the program itinerary. But on top of all that, they have guest lectures and site visits that relate to business and health sciences. So on the business side, Dr. Voss is a kind of specializes in supply chain and logistics. So students are going to be visiting a port and also an airport to kind of get an idea of how those things operate in another cultural climate. And then for the health sciences side, we have some guest lectures and some experiences where students are going to get to understand the unique aspects of New Zealand as it relates to health and lifestyle, and also of the Maori culture, which is the indigenous culture in New Zealand. So examining kind of both of those things. Next, our Northern Ireland program. This is one we've run once before in 2024, and it's led by three faculty from the College of Education. So Allison Freed, Erin Shaw, and Valerie Couture, they're all coming from different areas, school psychology, library media, teaching and learning, but they offer a variety of courses, both at the undergraduate and graduate level on this program. So that's a really cool opportunity for students. Finally, on our Peru program, this is another one that's new this year. I actually had the opportunity to visit Peru, to visit Cusco earlier this year with the faculty that's leading this program, Dr. Johnston. And this program is offering credit in mainly in linguistics, but with the goal that when students finish this program as well, they'll have an official TEFL certificate, which is a certificate to teach English as a foreign language, particularly internationally. That's kind of a growing interest for students, being able to finish a degree in a foreign language or linguistics and go teach abroad. This provides them with some of those skills. And also for students who are planning to pursue teaching in the US, it gives them the opportunity to teach English to local students and have that hands-on experience. And of course, we've also incorporated a site visit to Machu Picchu, which is probably the most well-known kind of site in Peru that students would, like to see. So this is a longer program, May 16th to June 18th. So students are there for about a full month, but this is also on the lower side in terms of cost. So for this program, we're estimating it under 5,000 for this upcoming summer. I say estimating because our budgets are not finalized until the end of September. We still have a few more days wrapping those up, but they will be posted on our website at that point in time. So I'll give you more information on how to find our website at the end, but you can go there and look at all of these programs, look at all the information I'm showing you here and more, and also see a program cost for every program. All right, so last two faculty-led programs that we offer, UCA in Rwanda. This is another program that we've been running since the early 2000 teens, so going on over 10 years now. It's also a longer program, about 3 weeks. It runs from May 9th to June 1st, and obviously a very unique destination for students. It's our only program in the continent of Africa. The courses that are offered are in biology and also honors. There's a lower division course as well in cultural studies for students who maybe aren't in either of those programs and still want to partake in the experience. And we have three faculty leaders on this program, Dr. Horton, Dr. Adedoja, and Dr. Graybiel. who will lead students through Rwanda. And one of the highlights, I think, of this program is students have the opportunity to go on a game drive, which is similar to Safari, where they'll get to see a lot of those kind of big critters that we know run around the continent of Africa. In Rwanda, students have the opportunity to see, I think, four of the big five. So that's amazing, really cool opportunity for students to do that. In addition to that, of course, they have the opportunity to do some service learning, working with local communities, also understanding some of the projects that are ongoing and unique in Rwanda and to Rwandan history. Finally, our Taiwan program, it focuses on finance and economics. So for students in the College of Business, there's a lot of programs or courses on offer for them. This is a 3-week program in the month of May. So again, students could come back and take like a summer 1 or summer 2 course if they were interested. And it's led by 2 different faculty from College of Business, Dr. Kalulu and Dr. Yao. And based primarily in Taipei, students will have the opportunity to visit local businesses in different sectors, like manufacturing, government industry, insurance, and get a kind of close-up view of how those companies operate in Taiwan specifically. Taiwan is also known to be one of the biggest producers of microchips for tech. So Nintendo, Apple, all of those companies are using Taiwanese chips. So students will get to see a little bit of that process and learn more about that sector that's pretty unique to Taiwan. So that wraps up our programs in the sort of faculty-led category for summer 2026. As you can see, there's quite a variety there. And, we're excited to offer these to students this year. Like I mentioned, they have until January 15th to sign up for any of those programs that we've just kind of previewed. The next group of programs is our kind of smallest group. That's our language immersion programs. So currently we offer programs that allow students to improve their fluency in either French or Spanish. And during these programs, they usually live with a host family on these 3. That's not very common for faculty-led programs. Most of those operate with, hotels, student residences, or maybe hostels for the short term. But these language immersion programs really prioritize putting students in an environment where they can immerse themselves and improve their fluency. So for that reason, we do offer those host families. There are a few options where students could stay in a student residence, as we see some students who really aren't comfortable with a host family, and we want to support them in that. But for the programs, most of them are kind of ranging in that or staying in that 4-week time kind of window. But we do have options from 2 weeks up to 9 weeks. So students could really get a longer term experience or something shorter if that's what they're looking for. As opposed to our faculty-led programs that are taught by UCA professors, these courses are taught by native speakers in the country that students are studying. So we partner with either a local university or a language school where students are kind of placed based on their level when they arrive, whether that's 0 or, very advanced, with students of a similar fluency, and they work on those areas that are most relevant to that particular group of students. Again, like our faculty-led programs, our language immersion programs are open through January 15th for students to apply. We have just 3 language immersion programs, so I'm going to share with you a little bit more about these. Similar to the overview we did with our faculty-led programs, hopefully this will give you a better idea of what exactly each one brings to the table. So our first program, this is one that's super close to my heart. Like I said, this was my first experience abroad as a student here at UCA, so I love to still promote this today. This runs for about a month in the summer, May 17th to June 13th this year, and it's primarily based in San Jose, Costa Rica, which is largely considered one of the most peaceful and safe tourist-friendly destinations in Central America. We offer credit on this program in Spanish, so students would earn 6 hours of credit towards the Spanish major or minor. And it is a group program. So I mentioned that there is kind of a different dynamic with our faculty-led programs. This one is a good in between. So professor from UCA, Dr. Sorensen, accompanies the group for the first week, and then students are there with each other and their host families and our great partner, Costa Rica Language Academy, for the last 3 weeks of the program. So it is kind of more of a group environment than some of our other ones. We usually have, somewhere from 5 to 10 students, maybe 12, if in a given year, that are participating in this program at the same time. As they like I mentioned previously, students live with host families. They have their breakfasts and lunches included, as those are prepared by the host family, so they get to experience kind of typical Costa Rican food. And then outside of the academic classes that they take, our partner there offers dance classes, like Latin dance classes, cooking classes, and the opportunity to explore Costa Rica on the weekends. So students have weekends free from Friday to Sunday, and oftentimes organize kind of trips in groups to visit the Caribbean coast, the Pacific coast, or the cloud forest, which is always a highlight for students. So next we have our Spanish language immersion program in Spain, which is a much more independent program. In a given year, we might send one student, we might send three. Students will stay at a host family in the city of León in Spain, which is sort of in the northwest near Portugal. Um, and in at the University of León, that's where students are taking classes at their language center, and they're flexible with their timeline. So students can take classes anytime from late June to late August, with a minimum duration of 2 weeks and maximum duration of 9 weeks. Again, they'll earn credit in Spanish, and they have access to a lot of those culture-based activities like dance, like cooking, city tours, things like that, that will help students to familiarize themselves not only with the language, but also with the culture of the particular country they're in. Finally, wrapping up our offerings for summer programs and for language immersion, we have our French language immersion program. This takes place, there's 2 sessions, but the most popular one for our students is in the month of July. It starts on June 29th and runs through July 25th. So it's also a 4-week program. That offers credit in French. Usually students will earn 6 hours of credit. And again, this is kind of like our Spain program. It's very independent. You know, some years we send one student, some years we send six. Those students are staying with different host families or in different residence halls. They do obviously have classes together if they're placed in the same level. But, in general, the experience is a little bit more independent and can tend to favor students who have a little bit more experience, though it's not exclusive to those students. We definitely see students do this as their first abroad experience every year, and they make it work. It just takes someone a little bit extra brave, I think, to be able to take that on. And yeah, very similar in terms of classes, culture, activity, excursions offered by our partner university there, which is the Catholic University of the West in Angers, France. So it's kind of, again, on that northwest region close to the coast. So also an area of France that's known to have tons of castles. So that's always fun for American students to see because we don't really get a lot of castles around here. All right, so next we'll talk a little bit about our long-term programs. We offer, as I mentioned, semester exchange, direct enroll opportunities for students on a semester or academic year basis. This is a current list of the destinations where we offer these programs. There are too many for me to go in depth about each one, but I can point out some of the ones that are most popular. You'll see that the bulk of our programs are in Europe and Asia, and that's definitely where we send the most students in a given year. In Asia, our partner in Seoul, South Korea, which is Myongji University, the first one you see listed, is increasingly popular among students. Again, for some of those cultural things that students know, like K-pop or K-beauty or all these things. I don't know. I hear about them when they come in. And then in Japan, our partner, Meiji Gakuin University, is located just outside of Tokyo, and that's also one of our most popular options for students to go abroad for a semester or a year. Then in Europe, we have our program in England is very popular, of course, because it's taught in English and students like the familiarity. But I will mention that even programs in non-English speaking countries are typically offered in English, with a few exceptions. For example, our program in Czech Republic, in Finland, Germany, Greece, Italy, all of these programs are taught in English. So students don't have to speak a foreign language to participate in these programs. They don't have to be majoring or minoring in a foreign language. It's really just about that exposure to a new culture that students can get by being there. So yeah, that gives you a little bit of an overview of some of our really popular programs, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. Of course, like I said, our website's a great resource. If you want to investigate a particular program, maybe you know that, your student has always wanted to go to Spain. Well, on our website, you can find a lot more information about those programs and the courses that are offered. Just to give a broad overview, students will take 4 to 5 classes at one of our partner universities. We do have a partnership with the university in each of these destinations that we've really selected, and we've kind of curated the programs that we offer over the years. Some of these relationships are fairly new, some of them are, almost 20 years old. So there is a good variety of programs, and we do have quality control. So if ever, a program isn't meeting our expectations or students aren't having a good experience, we don't offer that anymore. So, like I said, students will take 4 to 5 classes. They can choose courses in their major, in their minor, or something else. We don't have any similar to our faculty-led programs. Occasionally, we have a student who will come in and they'll say, like, I'm a computer science major. I've never studied Japanese, but I really want to go to Japan. And, they can do that and they can earn credit that will help them advance towards their degree, even if it's not necessarily in their major. Um, Students have the opportunity through these programs to really live as a local in another country. They're there long enough, several months or even up to an academic year, that they get to learn, where is their favorite restaurant, the local coffee shop, and how to order their favorite drink. They're able to make friends, whether from their host country or from, around the world. And so that's a really unique opportunity that students may not get to the same extent on our shorter term programs. Also, again, students can study fully in English. They could also choose a foreign language program if that's what they desire. We offer those in French, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, as well as other options, but those are kind of the top ones. Students do receive support from our office through the entire application process, all the way from when they first come in and say they're interested, through to choosing their accommodations, making their flight arrangements, getting their visa if needed. That being said, these are definitely more independent programs. Sometimes we send only one student to a given destination for, a given term. Other times we have a group of 3 or 5 students that are all going together, but to take different classes. So students do have to be comfortable knowing that, there may not be other students from UCA there, though there'll be students typically from the US and other parts of the world at their host destination. So our applications, we don't have any applications for these open right now today. The next cycle that will be open is in January of the upcoming year. We'll start accepting applications for students to go abroad either for fall 2026 or for the 26-27 academic year. And then our spring applications always open in August, and those close in September. So that can help your student if they're thinking at some point in the future of doing something like this, to kind of see when it would fall in line with their degree program. I didn't mention, but this program, well, I did mention it earlier on, but we require 60 credits and a 3.0 GPA. So usually these are going to be upperclassmen participating in these programs. And so that's also something to keep in mind. If your students early on in their college career, this may be something, for after sophomore or even after junior year. Okay, last type of program before we get into funding and scholarships. This is something totally different that we call Study Away. So this is the newest offering that we have in our kind of catalog of options for students, because in the past we used to just do Study Abroad. It had to be international. Now we offer students the opportunity to go to more than 170 destinations around the US, Canada, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands for a semester or an academic year. Just like with our semester exchange programs internationally, students will earn 12 to 15 credit hours, towards their degree, towards their major, minor, or just in something that they're interested in. And there are tons of options. I'll show you on the next page all of the options that students have to choose from. Sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming, but on the NSC website, students can sort by their major or their minor, and they can narrow down those 170 options a little bit further. Depending on how popular their major is, it might not narrow it down too much, but something that's a little bit more niche, they might have only 20 or 30 options to choose from. We do require for a student to apply for NSC that they've attended UCA at least one term full time and they have a 2.5 GPA. That means that freshmen could apply in their second semester to go abroad in the first semester of their sophomore year at the earliest. Just like with our semester exchange programs where students can pay UCA tuition and use all of their financial aid, with National Student Exchange, if a student selects home pay, which is an option at a lot of the universities, they can still pay UCA's tuition and fees at their in-state tuition and fee rate, and also use all of their scholarships and financial aid. So very much more cost effective than students, or parents may think going into it. So options are available for virtually every major, like I said, but they can narrow it down a little bit. This is the map of all of the opportunities that are offered through NSC. So you can
Wow.
see there are tons to choose from. Some of the most popular ones for UCA students, I know these are going to shock you at the destinations, but Hawaii, California, and Alaska have been really popular for our students, though they can really go anywhere. There is a college in New York City. There's, FIU in Florida. We have students right now in Monterey Bay in California, but they could stay as close as Mississippi. We have a student kind of slated to go to Mississippi State next semester. So, they can go as close or as far away as they'd like, but they're still enrolled as a UCA student. They just have a semester to experience a different city, experience a different university culture, earn credit towards their degree, and then come back and finish their degree here. This can be a great option for a few different reasons. Let's say you have a student who wants to do a graduate degree and they want to check out an area, they want to check out a campus. This is a great way to do it before they commit, to a full 2, 4 years, however many. Maybe your student's just really interested in being near the coast or in a big city because they've never had that experience, then this would allow them to do that. And finally, one of the coolest things that I think NSC offers is the opportunity to take classes that aren't offered at UCA. So, for example, I mentioned that Alaska has been really popular. They actually offer in Fairbanks an Alaska aquaculture program. So, students in environmental science or biology have loved that opportunity to explore aquaculture and salmon aquaculture specifically, which we obviously don't have here in Arkansas. And one of our students that recently did this program actually landed a job in Alaska and has, moved there, at least for the time being. So, a lot of cool opportunities can come out of these experiences for students as it relates to, their career or, further education plans. Also, I'm not going to read through all of these, but I just want you to visualize the list of opportunities. If there's a state that your student is interested in, maybe take a look and see if there's something that stands out here. So tons and tons of different options. You can see some states have more, others have less. In Arkansas, we're the only institution to offer this besides Tech. So it is kind of a unique opportunity. But you can see the Virgin Islands as well. And there are options in Canada. So we've had students explore that. If your student's interested in going outside of the US, but not super far away, they can do that. Currently, I believe the only state where there are not options is in Delaware. But everywhere else, there is at least one option on offer for students to pursue. And like I mentioned, yeah, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico as well. If you have a student that's interested in studying Spanish, that can also be a great way to go about it. All right, finally, I'm going to come to the hot topic of funding study abroad. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about costs for these programs. When it comes to semester exchange, I would encourage parents and students to take a look at our website as we have a budget for each of those destinations that students might be interested in. It does fluctuate. Just to give you a ballpark, for an average semester abroad, students will pay somewhere between $10,000 and $13,000 all inclusive. So that includes tuition, housing, airfare, personal expenses, including passport or visa, meal plan, all of those things. You're looking at a very similar cost of attendance to UCA before any scholarships or financial aid. Now, of course, to that 10 or 15 or 10 or $13,000, students can apply Pell Grant loans, scholarships, challenge, any of those things. And then in addition, we offer these scholarships that are one-time awards students can receive to help offset costs. So I mentioned briefly earlier, we have a special study abroad tuition rate that we charge students, which allows us to waive many of those on-campus fees. So that makes tuition a little bit reduced for students if they're doing a fall, spring, or summer program. All of those, they'll see that the cost is slightly less than if they were to take the same course or the same number of courses on UCA's campus. Now, of course, they have other expenses like flights and, souvenirs. So we understand that that's just one little thing we can do to help. And we do offer a lot of scholarships. So on this next page, I have kind of an overview of the main scholarships that we see students take advantage of in our office. So we have our Office of Education Abroad, Study Abroad scholarships. These are coming straight from our office to students. We offer these at the undergraduate and graduate level. We even have a special pot of money just for freshmen. And really any student applying for one of our programs can qualify for this. The funding does range from year to year depending on how many applications we have and how much funding we have available. But to give you an idea, last year our awards ranged from 1,000 to 2,550, and the average award was around $1,500. There's also the Robert and Carol Adcock Study Abroad Scholarship, which is offered through the School of Language and Literature for any student that studied at least 1 year of foreign language, including high school, and is going to be taking a foreign language course while they're abroad. At least one. So this is a little bit more niche, but still there can be students that would benefit from that scholarship. And it does tend to be quite a generous scholarship. Their awards do range as well. But and the School of Language and Literature could provide more information about that if your student qualifies and is interested. But definitely, we've seen students get several thousand to help put towards their program. Do keep in mind, students don't have to pick one. They can stack as many of these scholarships as they qualify for. So, don't feel like you have to pick the one that's most advantageous. No, encourage your student to apply to all of them. The Hatfield Scholarship, the third one here, is specific to upperclassmen studying abroad in France. So that's probably our most niche scholarship, but it is there if ever we have a student that qualifies. We always want to make them aware that that exists. Students in the Honors College can apply for the TAG grant. They have to be admitted to the Honors College, and they have to be either at least a sophomore student or higher with a GPA of 3.5. But this does provide up to $5,000 in funding for study abroad, which can be given at one time or spread, among multiple programs. Finally, the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship is one that is offered to Pell Grant eligible students only. Any undergraduate student, they must be a U.S. citizen as long as they're receiving Pell Grant or will receive Pell Grant or will be eligible for Pell Grant during the term that they're abroad. They're able to apply for this scholarship. And the normal award amount is up to $5,000. Students that are studying in a destination where a critical language is spoken, so that would mainly be like Japan or Korea, they can receive an additional stipend of $2,500. So we've seen students receive up to $7,500 in the past. There's also a STEM add-on that I believe is $1,000 for students who are taking a STEM course on their study abroad. So, students can stack. They could do Gilman, they could do our office's scholarship, and that can really compensate for a good portion of their study abroad program. Of course, taking into consideration that any of those scholarships that they may already have will also be able to, they'll have access to those while they're abroad. Okay. I think that about wraps it up for me. Perfect. I've left 10 minutes for any questions that you guys might have regarding the information that was presented here, or perhaps things that we didn't address that you do want to make sure that we talk about during this session. So if you do have any questions, you can either leave those in the chat, or if you would like to, turn on your camera and chat, then we can do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can see all the people and see those questions. Any questions for me? While I wait to see if any questions appear in the chat, I am going to address some of those first questions that we got and first concerns. So obviously, I think we talked a little bit about scholarships and costs, so I won't, continue to go on about that. But I do want to talk a little bit about safety. So for all of our programs, we obviously for faculty led, we all have faculty there with the students. We only send students to destinations that are rated level 1 or 2 by the U.S. State Department, which it's a scale from 1 to 4. So 1 to 2 is on the lower end. That's really for student safety. In addition to that, all of the programs that we offer, we partner with a provider in country that offers 24/7 emergency support. Students are enrolled in international travel and medical insurance before they go abroad, which would cover them in case of emergency. That would cover anything from I have an ear infection, all the way up to political and natural disaster evacuation, all the things that we hope to never have to deal with. So we have those kinds of things in place. For students who are doing more independent programs, of course, they have support through our partner universities on the ground. They also have that insurance and access to 24/7 mental health resources through an app. So that's another amazing resource that we have for students to, if they're on those more independent programs to keep them safe. I didn't talk about passports either, so I'll address that. So, passports, we can assist students in the process for applying for a passport. Usually, our recommendation is, for example, if a student's going in a summer program on a summer program, that they apply no later than February 1st. Our office does usually hold a passport fair on campus during the month of January, where students can come and apply for a first-time passport or get their passport renewed, and we do that right here. They can obviously do that anytime as well if that's works better for them through their local post office or another passport processing center. But we do offer that in the spring for those students that are going abroad in the summer. If a student were to be doing a semester exchange program, we would encourage them to apply for their passport from the time that we meet with them so that they have it ready mid-semester because that's really when those documents are needed. But importantly, they do not have to have a passport to apply to any of our programs. It's totally okay if they don't have one. We'll help them with that process. Okay, for the summer sessions, will the students have time to explore? Will the faculty help them know where to go? So yes, absolutely. Every program is a little bit different, but in the most general sense, our programs are quite structured. So students have a day-to-day itinerary. They know from day to day kind of what their expectations are, when they have to be somewhere, where they have to be, all of those things, and faculty are there for that. However, at the end of the day, which this is going to depend on the particular program and on the particular day, but let's say that their itinerary activities wrap up at 6 p.m. Then students are welcome to, go have dinner or go see a site. Sometimes we'll have a free day or a free weekend where students can go see those things that they want to see that are maybe more niche and aren't included in the program itinerary. Of course, we always emphasize the importance of the buddy system with that. So students need to go in either two or three to do these kind of activities during free time. But it is important to us that students have the flexibility to not only go and be, going from place to place along the itinerary, but have some opportunity to explore on their own. Faculty do provide a lot of information about where they might want to go, as do our providers on the ground. So, for example, day one, they're going to do a walking tour of the area where they're staying, and they're usually going to do a city tour as well. So that'll give students the ability to see some things they want to see. Of course, students can kind of research on their own and ask faculty how to get to a specific destination if there's something specific that they want to see. But we always provide suggestions, and faculty will always say, well, if you want to see this, you could go this day or this day, and this would be the best way to get there. Obviously, during our more independent semester exchange programs, students, aside from having to attend their classes at the university where they're enrolled, they do have a ton of free time to explore in the evenings after classes and on the weekends. And lots of students take advantage of those programs to really travel to other countries as well. Housing for summer programs, that's another question that I got. So every program is a bit different. It's really going to depend on the program that your student is interested in. But for the most part, we're going to work with, like Florence is an exception. We work with apartments. Students are placed in groups of, 3 to 8 students in an apartment. But most of our programs will work with hotels or student residences, which, are going to be similar to like a dorm type of setup. Hopefully that answers your question. Though, if you do have a particular program you're interested in, feel free to let me know and I can give you specific information about that. Another question, my student is a freshman, so she can apply this coming January, summer 2026. That's right. She can apply this anytime. She can apply now if she wants, but the deadline is January 15th for any of our summer 2026 programs. And we would love to we love to have students start doing these programs as a freshman. Sometimes it can get more complicated as they get to junior, senior year and they have, internship requirements or things that they need to do, and it's a little bit difficult to fit into their schedule. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and drop our web address in the chat for those of you who are interested. It's just uca.edu/global study. Specifically, you were interested in housing for New Zealand. That's helpful. So for New Zealand, we have the majority of the program in Christchurch at a student hostel that's called the Drifter. It's a very nice hostel. If you're used to American hostels, I know that can sound a little bit scary, but in many European countries and also, in Europe, in New Zealand, they're very upscale compared to what you might be expecting. But if you want to Google the Drifter Christchurch, you can find that information. Um, and then also for some of the site visits, so they're going to an area called Kaikoura for the whale watching tour. There they have accommodations and shared cabins, so that will be a very fun experience for students. Okay. I think you guys have had some great questions. Thank you so much for interacting and asking some of the things that you wanted to follow up on. I do want to just close by saying that if you would like to get more information, if you would like to get in touch with our office, you can email this. I'm going to put it in the chat. Studyabroad@uca.edu is our office's sort of general email. So you're welcome to contact us there. And then you can contact me personally at adepner1@uca.edu. So put those both there if you have follow-up questions that we didn't get addressed today. Also, on our website, your students can schedule Zoom meetings or in-person meetings, and we always invite parents and family to attend those. So if you would like to learn more and maybe come with your student to talk about a particular program, let them know to go ahead and schedule an appointment and loop you in on when it will be so that so you can get your questions answered as well. We would love to have you here. So I think that's all for me. I don't know if Garth, you have anything that you want to say to wrap up?
No, just thank you so much, Ellie. This was amazing. You did a great job and so informative. You have made me want to renew my passport and start traveling for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. As I mentioned before, this is recorded, and so it will be posted on our uca.edu/families page. So you'll be able to go back and rewatch that if you want any of that information. All right. Thanks, everyone, and I hope that you all have a good night.
Thank you.